Hello, I hope you're doing well. My name is Caro. I am a full-time artist from Peru based in the Hudson Valley, and I've come to realize I haven't done a Q&A since the year started, so here I am with all your questions, Tulsi tea in handy. Let's get into our Q&A, and thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Alright, so let's get into your questions. I have gotten a lot of questions regarding my art practice, running a small art business, as well as life, wellness, plants, and all the things in between. So I will be answering to a few of each. And there are a few questions that I've been asked several times, so I will be answering to those as well. And for the questions that I've already answered either in one of my videos or in another Q&A, I'll be including those within the video notes, so feel free to check out the video's description if I didn't get to answer your question. And I will get answered as many as I can, but I got so many this time around that I'll just work on a few and maybe make a second Q&A in the one I keep sharing my answers. So the first question that I will be answering to is Maeli Duval's question. Hola Caro, ¿cuáles son tus proyectos profesionales y personales por estos 6 últimos meses del 2024? Gracias por todo lo que compartes. Hello Caro, what are your professional and personal projects for the last 6 months of 2024? Thank you for everything that you share. I have too many dreams that I want to fulfill this second part of the year. The first one is I just finished working on my painting about the pollinators, and I am about to restart or retake a project that I've left on pause for a while, and this is a painting about Peruvian fruits and vegetables. And I'm very excited to be focusing on this project once again, because the last time that I went back home to Peru, I took my microscope with me and I did a lot of dissections from Peruvian fruits and veggies that I love, and I took photographs and did research on them. And then last year I had the opportunity to visit the herbarium at Kew Gardens, which is the largest herbarium in the whole world, and my objective on being there was doing research on Peruvian fruits and veggies. So I'll finally be able to use all that research that I've had on pause for a couple of years and refocus on that painting, which is so dear to my heart. And once I finish that painting, I want to really do a lot of advances on another project that I've put it on pause, which is my painting about the eukaryotic beings, which include the plant, fungi, animal, and protist kingdoms. This is the biggest personal project painting that I've done so far. It's a 50 by 70 inch watercolor and gouache painting that I am so in love with, but it takes forever, so I'm excited to work on that. There's a lot of other projects that I really want to work on. I want to release a class, an online class on Skillshare. I want to do another online course called Rituals Around Creativity 2. In 2020, I released Rituals Around Creativity 1, which is 27 classes to reawaken and connect to creativity and rituals. And for years I've been wanting to work on part 2, and lately I'm feeling this call super loud of, okay, it's time, work on it. So I know that I'll be starting this year. I don't know if I'll get enough bandwidth to actually finish that. And the last thing that I wanted to share regarding this question is that last month I did a lot of in-person workshops regarding cacao, meditation, painting, and some of them combining all these things. And what I've usually done in my practice is anytime that I share in-person gatherings, I do them for a while and then I just go into my cocoon and hide for a long while. Like I disappear for the next 7 months or so, or maybe up until next year. So this time around, for the first time, instead of hiding after sharing so much in person, I am feeling called to keep sharing in person, because I've come to realize that when I am moving through a lot of feelings, I personally feel that this is a very chaotic, hectic, heartbreaking time that we are living worldwide. And I have come to realize how important it is for me to be in community and to be in ceremony and be in creativity and find spaces to commune with community and plants and painting. And I'm just feeling very excited to keep sharing this. So this is definitely something that I'll keep doing throughout the rest of 2024. So before we continue with our Q&A, I just wanted to say thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace has been the virtual home of my website, my online shop, email campaigns, member areas, and so much more since 2018, and I cannot recommend them enough. Some of the tools that I've been loving are Squarespace Blueprint, with a one after answering a few questions, they can help you build and design the website of your dreams. And I am also using a lot their member areas facility, which lets me share exclusive content and exclusive programs with members that sign up for specific things like my online portal, Whispers of the Heart. If you're interested in trying out Squarespace, we are partnering up to offer you a 2-week free trial. And once you're ready to launch, you can use the code Caro Arevalo to get 10% of your first purchase of a website or domain with them. And now let's go back to answering your questions. Let's go to the next question. Then Yesenia Torres asks, hi Caro, how did you navigate and find your calling in art in your younger and post-high school years? I'm currently 2 years post-college and I would love to hear your coming to art story. Also, how was this in relation to your family? You know how a lot of Latins are around the themes of studying art and how challenging a lot of people within the Latin community can find it to accept art as a profession. Thank you. I love these questions. I have a video and a bunch of podcasts where I've shared in detail these answers, but trying to make a long story short, I always say that art school taught me how to have the structure to show up when I don't have a boss or anyone checking on me. But I really learned what I wanted to work on theme-wise and also skill-wise outside of art school and outside of any academia. I believe that my themes really came from sitting down in ceremonies, from communing more with nature, with finding an inner journey. And these for me started after sitting down in the first ceremony that I ever sat, which was at Temazcal. Long story short, it was after just being in that communion with the plants and the smokes in the ones one works within a Temazcal that I started really paying attention to what was happening within myself, to paying attention to what was happening when I was alone, when I was in silence, when I was communing with plants. And that's when my mandalic paintings and drawings started appearing, and that's when I started really focusing in my inner world instead of all the time trying to seek for answers outside. And that's the reason why the course that I was sharing with you, Rituals Around Creativity, is so dear to my heart, because making time to pause, to go within, to look at what's happening within ourselves, which in my experience also means what's happening in our relationship with nature, is what really informs the themes that I want to work in my art practice. And in art school, I actually only took one watercolor class, which was very brief. It was literally one class that lasted 3 hours. And then all the rest of my practice with watercolors is something that I've learned by myself. Hence the reason why I use watercolors in a non-traditional way, and they look more like wash than they look like watercolors. And regarding the topic of how did I navigate my family supporting me as an artist, I have an older sister. She is an artist as well, and I believe my parents already were working on coming out of that mentality of art is only a hobby and not a career when my sister decided to study art in university. And I left high school thinking that I was not an artist and thinking that I wasn't talented enough to study art, and also thinking a lot about like, this is a hobby, this is not something with the one I can make a living. So I decided to study management, and 1 year within the management faculty, I realized even though all my grades were straight A's, I didn't feel any motivation, I didn't feel challenged, I didn't feel that was my calling, and I decided to take the first leap of faith in my life and just follow something intuitively, like how much I wanted to be in the art faculty, not even knowing that I wanted to do watercolors. I just had these pulls and I decided to follow that. And within my first year of being in art school, my mom, she's a lawyer and she was a teacher in the law faculty in the same school that I went to, in the same university, and I would sometimes ride with her. And that whole first year she would ride with me telling me, you're not an artist, you're making the biggest mistake of your life, you shouldn't be following art, this is not for you, this is a mistake. And even though that's how she felt and she was very concerned and she was really speaking up about how she felt, she would still be supportive in paying my tuition for art school. So, you know, I think there was a part of her that was still like, okay, she's making a mistake, but it's her own mistake. And I'm so thankful for that, because I know that's not every person's position. Not every person has the support of their parents to pay for college, even if they think you're making a mistake. So I'm so thankful for that. And I nowadays totally understand where my mother was coming from, telling me, this is not for you, this is so challenging. I think that was totally for me. I'm so thankful that up until today, I'm able to pay my bills and feed myself through my art. But at the same time, when I was 20 years, in my 20s, I didn't really grasp how challenging and how uncertain a career in art can be, but that's not necessarily the way that it is. And I think she was just trying to bring sense into how harsh and challenging it can be, because it is very challenging, but it can also be beautiful and fun and nerve-wracking and inspiring and so many things. It's such a layered thing to study. And I also, the last thing that I'm going to say regarding this question, because I can go on forever about this topic, is that I understand what you say when you say that a lot of the Latin community can be non-supportive or of artistic careers. I felt that growing up. I grew up in Lima, in the capital city of Peru, and I finished college there until I moved to the States. I moved to the States when I was 23, right after I finished college, and I, just from the surroundings, I felt that no one believed in me, and I would mirror that in myself, and it was hard for me to believe in myself, in the sense of believing that I can make a living and I can succeed as an artist, whatever that means for you. But I personally it really helped me to be able to move away from my community and move away from all those opinions of, you're not gonna make it as an artist because that's like a dream. And I also had the perception that in order to make a living as an artist, you needed to have contacts and know the owners of galleries, and that was not my position. So I had no connections in the art world when I finished art school, and just having the capability of going to live in a different city outside from all these opinions helped me learn that the most important thing was that I learned how to believe in myself. And once I learned how to believe in myself, whether it's back home in Peru, whether it's someone on the internet, whether it's whoever has an opinion about how wanting to make a living as an artist or succeed as an artist, again, whatever that means for you, is a delusion, all of those opinions don't bother me anymore, because I know they are not my own. They have nothing to do with me. They speak more about the person that's thinking about them. But I have come to realize that just being away from all those opinions by moving to a new place was very helpful for me. It was not necessary, but it really helped me to learn that I first needed to fix how I related to making art as a profession, in order to then be able to just shush all those critique voices, which sometimes come from concern and sometimes come from insecurities of other people not wanting to believe that they can make their dreams happen. But we're going into a whole psychology realm here. I hope that answered your question, Yesenia. Thank you so much for asking that. So then Shireen and a couple other people have asked, how is my health journey coming along? How is my gut healing coming along? How is my journey with Ayurveda coming along? And I thank you all so much for asking these, because it's been a year and a half since I shared a video when I was doing this Lion's diet, which was so wild. And ever since I finished the Lion's Diet, I have started doing Ayurveda. It's been such a journey. Short answer, I'm not healed yet. My overgrowth candida is still here, but I am learning so much, and I feel that even though it's not like, oh, I'm completely out of candida overgrowth, I have seen a lot of progress in some areas of my body. Like, I don't know if you've been here on my channel for a little while, you might remember that usually all of these and my arms and my whole chest and belly is covered with skin candida, and now it's not, which is wonderful. But there's other areas in my body where I still have visible candida and candida inside my body, but I am loving the Ayurvedic journey that I'm on. Last year I had a practitioner, and in March this year I shifted practitioners. I also took a little break of any sort of protocol or diet whatsoever because I needed a rest from all of that. And I am loving the Ayurvedic practitioners that I'm working with since March this year. So it's been 4 months. And what I'm loving about it is, for the first time, following a protocol that is taking away that diet mentality away from me. When I was in my teens, I had an eating disorder, and I could make a whole video about this because it's such a big topic. And I have come to realize in this last 4 months that inside myself, a diet mentality and an anxiousness about food has always been there. If you have any sort of immune system disbalance or any allergies or anything like candida overgrowth or gut problems or SIBO, etc., you might relate to how challenging it can be sometimes to have to worry about everything that you eat, or even knowing that it's so dangerous to eat outside in a restaurant because you don't know the oil and the whatever, and so many things that go into it. If you've been down this rabbit hole, you know how complex it can get. But I'm so glad that within these practitioners, I have been learning how to let go of that diet mentality and really just, you know, if I want to eat pizza, eat it without that guilt, without that like, "Argh!" And it's been so beautiful. I've been eating so many carbs and so many grains as I've never before in my life. And it's definitely bringing not only healing to my candida and digestion and all of that, but it's bringing a lot of healing that I thought I had already finished doing regarding diet protocols and regarding eating disorders and so many things. We can go in a whole rabbit hole about this because this is such a deep topic and something that's very dear to my heart, because it's teaching me, I don't know if you've ever experienced like, oh, I've already healed that, like I've seen it, I've acknowledged it, I've cried it, I transmuted, and now it's gone. And then years later, you're like, actually, there's still a wound there. It's smaller, but it's still there. So that's what I've been navigating for the past 4 months. And to finish the answer, so far with this Ayurvedic protocol, I've been pretty much just focusing on eating 3 meals a day, eating at specific times a day. And this is something that I've come to realize I was not doing. It would be like 5 p.m. and I'm like, I've been so into my painting that I didn't have breakfast. I'm getting hungry and I haven't made lunch yet. So it's been challenging to really show up and make 3 meals a day and eat them at the certain times and not have breakfast at 6 p.m. So I'm learning. There's so much space for learning. And in case you're wondering, the Ayurvedic practitioners that I'm working with are Rana and Rodrigo. Their program is called Rana U, but everything's online and the recipes that they send me are delicious. In these questions have been asked a lot about what I eat in a day, so I would love to make a 1 week of meals kind of video. Most of the recipes that I do are from Rana and Rana U and their program, and it's all in Spanish and I'm loving it. And it's not sponsored, by the way. I wish it was though. And yeah, I am about to start herbs to now start getting rid of that candida overgrowth, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm not cantando victoria, I'm not singing victory, but I am learning so much and I'm focusing on that instead of focusing on like, am I 100% healed or am I not? I'm focusing on, I'm learning so much and I'm learning how to bring more restfulness into my body regarding these imbalances that I've navigated for so long, instead of putting more pressure on why is this not completely gone. So it's a long journey. I'm not trying to get like miracle one night results, so we'll see how that goes. If at some point I'm ever completely healed, believe me, you'll be the first to know. I'll make a huge post blog about it, because I know some of you here have been navigating candida for years, because I've read your comments and I know how frustrating it can be and how lonely that journey can be. And sometimes we don't even want to bug our loved ones because they must be fed up from hearing us talk about this. So believe me, if I have the capability of sharing something that has been truly 100% helpful for me, I will, but I'm not there yet. So that's why I haven't done it. And I know that everybody is different, everybody. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm just so thankful to be learning and to be bringing ease and restfulness into my body within these challenging things, because there's just so much that goes into finding what is healthy for you right now. And the last thing that I will say about that is I'm still navigating how to not get too worried or preoccupied or anxious or stressed, because I know all of that has a reaction in our body, and I feel that's my life lesson. I am still learning how to dance in between the rest and the easefulness and the creativity, but at the same time like not worrying about things that I worry, like rent and healthcare, and you know how it goes. So thank you, Shireen, and thank you to everyone that asked this question. I have really felt so loved to have some of you guys here asking how am I doing, because it's lovely to know that people care. So the next question that I got asked a few times is, how do you balance self-care while running an art business or while being an entrepreneur? And the 3 people that ask this, all of you share that sometimes it can get overwhelming and self-care can take so much of our time, and then there's not enough time to hustle and make our art entrepreneurial dreams happen. And I can relate to that so much, and that could be a whole video within itself. For me, it's very important to have a morning routine, and I have come to realize that what works best for me is there are certain things that I do every morning, but the amount of time that I dedicate to each of them varies day to day. So let's say I move my body every day. Usually it's yoga, but sometimes it's stretching. Sometimes it's more like a HIIT workout with ankle weights and weights in my arms. But there's movement every morning, there's meditation every morning, and there's a moment to pray every morning. And some mornings, either if it's at home or if I go to a yoga studio, the time that I dedicate to yoga varies from 1 hour to 15 minutes. So I know there's times where there's so much we have in our work schedule or our life schedule that we cannot dedicate 1 hour to do a movement practice. So those days I stick to 15 minutes instead of 1 hour. And then if I cannot meditate for 20 minutes, I do a 10-minute meditation. And the same with the amount of time that I let myself, if I can be outside and pray. Sometimes I do it for 2 minutes. Sometimes I do it in the car before leaving for 30 seconds. Sometimes I do it for 20 minutes. So I have come to realize that what works for me is keeping the practices that I do, but before I start, checking in truly on how much time do I have in order to make these practices. And of course there is a sense of, if I need to start something, maybe breakfast or work at 9 a.m., then I'll try my best to wake up 2 or 3 hours before that, so I have enough time to have my morning routine, feed myself, clean a little, change, take a shower, whatever it is that I need to do that morning, and then at 9 be ready for X thing that I have to do. So there is planning that goes into it, but also there's a lot of ease and checking in with myself that goes into it. And the same goes for my nighttime routine. My morning routine is way more important than my nighttime routine, but I love to finish my day being in bed early with a book or with my journal, with a candle, and finishing my day that way brings so much ease. I do some Ayurvedic routines at night as well, but they are so fast, like oiling my feet and oiling my face and all these things. But I have come to realize my answer is that it's like just bringing easefulness into knowing that each day I can commit a different amount of time to these routines. And I have come to realize that there's so much more self-care that I could bring. Let's say something that I do is I permit myself, or I gift myself one massage a year. I gift myself one facial a year. So, and the practitioners that I go to, both for facials and massages, are always like, Caro, you shouldn't be doing these once a year. You should be doing these like every 3 months. And yes, I understand what they mean, but it's not only time, it's also budget, you know? So once a year is what I can commit at the moment. Maybe in the future I'll be able to do it twice a year or 3 times. For now it's one and it's perfect. And I'm also learning how to bring more ease into that. Like the days that I'm able to have a 1 day off a week are so beautiful. Like just really be able to not turn on my computer, have my phone off, and really be fully in nature or offline. It's so beautiful and so important. And the last thing that I want to say regarding these is I also believe that the more that I can bring rest and easefulness and homeostasis into my body and my emotions, the best I can show up to work, whatever that is. So as an entrepreneur, as my one-woman show that I run my art business, I have to wear all the hats and do so many things, which I love, by the way, but I have come to realize that I can perform better when I'm more rested and I have met at least my needs. I'm not saying like go have like a everyday spa before you work, because that wouldn't be sustainable for a lot of us, including myself. But you know, that 15 minutes of stretching, 3 minutes of prayer, or whatever works for you. For me, it's also changed. Sometimes it is journaling or making music or a little strolling nature in the morning. So finding what works for us and then being able to just do it depending on how much time we have on our schedule. That's why I love my cacao ceremonies or cacao drinking in the morning, which I'm not doing as often every day now that I'm doing Ayurveda, but it's so helpful. Then Madame Naked Water, their first question was regarding health, which I've already answered. And the second one is, what did you tell yourself mostly to stay motivated becoming freelance, and what was the first step to believe it will all be worth it? So earlier this year, like a month or 2 ago, I made a video sharing my biggest 10 lessons of being a full-time artist for the past 5 years. And I answered to this question in detail. It's like a 40-minute video, so I'll be linking that one on this video's description. You can check it out. And I really want to ask this question because it's so fun. It's by Magical Patterns, and it says, Hola, Caro. As a bilingual artist, I wanted to ask you in which language your headspace is when you paint. And if you find yourself sometimes in one or another, what's the difference in the feeling, how it shows in your paintings? I love this question because I have been thinking about it, and I think in silence inside my head in Spanish, always. I dream in Spanish, I think in Spanish. And usually while I'm painting, if I'm having an inner dialogue, it is Spanish. But that being said, what is my favorite meditative therapy or meditative activity while painting is being able to get out from the linear language that goes inside my brain, which is in Spanish, and shifting into the non-spoken languages. Shift into a more intuitive state, shift into the space where I'm able to be creating, painting, making my repeated patterns without any verbal words and more the non-spoken languages. that can be frequencies, colors, they can be sounds, they can be just visualizations or downloads or however you want to call it. But I love when we can transpass the spoken verbal language and go into that creative state that is non-spoken, that is non-linear. And I see that as the conversation with a creative muse. And we've talked on a lot of other videos about our relationships with creativity and the creative muse, as a lot of artists have called it, them, they, her. And that is my favorite way of creating. So in order to get there and achieve that, there's so many different practices that I do. I think the first and most important one is patience. The second one is really showing up to do the art and the creative day after day after day. It's not like, oh, I've been on my computer all week and now all of a sudden I'll be in non-linear intuitive connection, you know? It's more like shifting away from the logistic side of art making and then showing up day after day after day after day, being in ceremony, painting, and then slowly getting out of the mind and into the intuitive, into the non-linear, into the body. I feel it's also a communion with showing up for my meditation, a communion with spending more time alone in nature, in silence, making music, communing with different plants that I love. If you've been here for a minute, you may know that. So that is my favorite inner dialogue while painting, the one that is not in Spanish, not in English, just in non-spoken words and non-spoken telepathy with a creative muse. Some of you are gonna be like, girl, I'm out of this video. This is a little too wacky for me. Okay, I think this video is long enough, so I'll answer to one more question. A ver, ¿qué más tenemos? Okay, so the last one that I'll answer is, how do you find joy in digital content creation? This is a wonderful question and I have two answers. So the first one is digital content creation. If you mean making digital art, I paint by hand, usually using watercolors, and now only watercolors, but I've also done a lot of digital artwork, digital paintings. I use an iPad from 2019 or 2018, and I use the app called Procreate. And the way that I find joy in making digital paintings is because you can do infinite zoom, and then I can work on infinite amount of details. And I used to do a lot of digital paintings when there was I have a Patreon, and one of my tiers had a monthly postcard and a monthly sticker. So every month I would make a sticker and a postcard, mainly digitally, because it was faster and I can do it on the road or when I would take buses to the city or stuff like that. And I had so much fun, especially because you can do infinite zoom into creating that. So that's why I found the joy. And if you mean digital content creation as in filming videos and making reels and all of that, so I paint. That's my main art form, but I studied photography. I moved to New York actually from Peru to study photography, thinking that I would leave painting behind and I would dedicate myself to photography full-time, but I didn't. And anyways, I have always been in love with photography and video making. I have such a heartfelt relationship to analog film and video and storytelling and filming and art direction, and I feel that in order to keep my painting creativity spark alive, I not only need to paint but also work on different things that are not related to my painting. I have a video on that called 5 ways that I reawaken my creativity or something along those lines. I'll link it on this video's description. And I love to put my paintings on pause so then I can do art direction and film these videos that for me become like little storytellings, and I love to see them as small indie movies of some sort. So they inspire me because I find such a creative outlet in them, and they've always felt like a new creative way. And yeah, that's it. If you can here, the mow loaner from our neighbors just started, so I think this is a sign to stop this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for asking so many fun questions. I will be answering some of the other questions that I didn't answer today on my Instagram stories, and the rest I'll keep for another video. If you have other questions that I didn't answer and you'd like to see on a future Q&A, feel free to leave those in this video's comments. Also, thank you once again Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Remember that we're giving you a sweet link and a discount code that you are welcome to use if that's something that you want to explore. And feel free to subscribe to this channel, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment, or maybe share it with someone that you think will appreciate what I'm sharing here. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you some other time. Bye everybody.